All right, so this is the intro for 0.3. You'll learn I have difficulty drawing the number 3. All right, so we're just going to talk about some vocabulary real quick. So let's talk about some things that are going to show up on this right here. Okay, we call this the coordinate grid. Okay. Okay. Now, on this grid, we have some very important things. Okay, right here, where the two lines intersect, we have the origin. Okay? That's kind of like if you're playing tag, that would be base. That's where everything starts, right there. The origin has a location of 0, 0. Because you're not moving at all. You're just stuck right there at the beginning, 0, 0. All right? Kind of like start on a board game. Okay? Now, these are actually lines that go on forever and ever. This one right here is called the x-axis. Okay? If you think back to grade school, this is the first axis you ever used, but you would have called it a number line. And in fact, when you first did it, you probably only learned from 0 and the positive numbers. And then eventually you learned about the negative numbers on this side, and so forth. But that was the first line you probably ever encountered in math. Then as you got a little bit older, maybe in the middle school, you learned about this new one, the y-axis. And if you ever have trouble remembering which one's x and which one's y, just think about the order you learned them. You first learned about this when you were younger, and then you learned about this one later. Okay, so the x-axis is horizontal, and the y-axis is vertical. Okay. Now, remember, whenever we do points, let's say this point right here, we always go in alphabetical order. We always go x, then y. So this point right here, people get confused between 3, 2 and 2, 3. Well, remember, we always want to go x first and then y. Therefore, this is incorrect, and this is our winner, 2, 3. Now, we also have some very special points on here, such as this point right here. Now, we think about it, what would we name that? Well, again, we go left 2 spaces, so -2. We don't go up or down, -2, 0. This is on the x-axis, so we call this an x-intercept. We sometimes abbreviate it like that, but this is the full word, x-intercept. Similarly, if we came down here, let's say to -5, and we put a point right here, well, the point here, we didn't go left or right, so we moved 0 spaces on the x-axis, and we just dropped 5 on the y. This one is called the y-intercept because it's on the y-axis. I'm just going to abbreviate that one. Okay, the last concept we're going to refresh ourselves on is slope. Some of you may have remember hearing the term rise over run. That basically means the change in y over the change in x. This is the formula for it, y minus y over x minus x. It's very important to put the y on top, okay? So real quickly, here's a coordinate grid. Let's do some points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, this point right here. Okay, now remember, this is not 2, 4. This is 4, 2. All right, and then we're going to go -1, and then you go -1, -2, -3. Let's put a point right here. And that point will be -1, left 1, down 3. Now, we could actually just count on the grid. Okay, remember we always do y first. So we could just count up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5. And from -1, we could count to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right 5. Which means 5 over 5, which equals 1. A slope of 1. But we could also do the formula. So again, we start with the y always. We can start with either one of these. I'm going to do 2 minus, now careful, it's a -3. And 4 minus, careful, it's a -1. Remember, this becomes adding the opposite, and there's your 5 over 5. But real quick, we could have gone the other direction, -3 minus 2, and minus -1 minus 4, and we would have gotten -5 over -5. But remember, a negative divided by negative is also positive. So this is a slope of +1, which means really we could go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, okay, and end up right at that point. Sorry, it's a little bit off since I did not have a even grid, but you would go up 1, right 1, and you would end up with this line right here. Now, notice this line is going uphill. I tell my students always, if you write your name on it and it's going uphill, it's positive, okay? Real quickly, we're not going to calculate it again, but if I had one going this direction, well, then my name, if I wrote it on the line, is going downhill, so that's negative slope. So we have positive and negative. And then after that, we have two special circumstances. We have horizontal lines and perpendicular line, or sorry, vertical lines. So if I have a horizontal line like so, okay, and just think about it. Let's say this is 1, 2, and 5, 2. Well, if I do 2 minus 2 over 5 minus 1, I end up with 0 over 4. If you type this in the calculator, 0 divided by 4, the calculator will tell you that's 0. I can divide nothing 4 ways and get nothing. This is called a zero slope. Okay, that is a slope of 0. If you think about a treadmill and you got on it and it was flat, it would read 0 incline. But we also have this situation where we could have a vertical line. So let's say we had this point here, 0, 0. And we had this point here, sorry, not 0, 0, wow. We all make mistakes. Let's say 5, 0, and let's say this was 5, 4. Okay, well, if I did my math, y minus y over x minus x, I would get 4 over 0. If you type 4 divided by 0 on your calculator, you will get an error. That's because we cannot divide by 0. It's mathematically impossible. So this technically has no slope, and that is not the same thing as a 0 slope. And we'll talk about that more.